Natalie Foster sat trembling on the floor of her small apartment, pain radiating sharply through her leg as she struggled desperately to process what had just happened. Moments earlier, a man sent by a dangerous, predatory lender named Gordon Blackwell had forced his way into her apartment, demanding immediate repayment of a loan she had taken out months earlier to help cover her mother's mounting medical expenses. When Natalie explained desperately that she simply didn't have the money yet, the man's patience had snapped violently, shoving her forcefully against a low table during the confrontation, the impact leaving her leg injured and throbbing with sharp, unbearable pain. He had left quickly afterward, delivering one final, cold warning before disappearing into the night. Alone, frightened, and in significant pain, Natalie fumbled desperately for her phone, her hands shaking uncontrollably as she attempted to text her best friend, Rachel, for immediate help. In her panicked, disoriented state, however, she accidentally selected the wrong contact from her phone, quickly typing out a desperate message without carefully checking the recipient. "He broke my leg. Please, I need help. I'm scared," she typed frantically, hitting send immediately without double-checking the contact information. Unbeknownst to Natalie, her desperate message hadn't reached Rachel at all. Instead, due to a recently changed phone number Natalie hadn't yet updated in her contacts, her urgent plea had been sent directly to a complete stranger, Sebastian Cole, a powerful and influential mafia boss who had recently acquired that particular phone number for his own private, personal use. Sebastian, reviewing quiet business matters late that evening, glanced curiously at the unexpected message appearing on his phone. Confused initially, he quickly realized the message was clearly intended for someone else, an urgent, desperate plea for help from a stranger in genuine distress. Most people in Sebastian's position might have simply dismissed the message as an obvious mistake, quickly deleting it and moving on with their evening. However, something about the raw, genuine fear evident within Natalie's desperate words struck Sebastian deeply, awakening an unexpected sense of concern and responsibility within him. Without hesitation, Sebastian quickly replied to the unfamiliar number. "This isn't Rachel, but I received your message. Are you safe right now? Please send your address immediately." Natalie, confused and startled by the unexpected response, quickly realized her critical mistake. Panic intensified within her, uncertain whether to trust this unknown stranger who had unexpectedly received her desperate plea for help. Yet given her dire situation and overwhelming pain, she found herself with little choice but to respond honestly. "I'm sorry. I sent this to the wrong number," she replied nervously, pain evident clearly even through her hurried typing. "I don't know you. Please forget you saw this." Sebastian, sensing clearly the fear and desperation behind her hesitant reply, refused to simply let the matter drop. "I understand this is unusual," he replied quickly, "but you're clearly in pain and need help urgently. Please tell me where you are. I promise I only want to help." Natalie hesitated, torn between caution and desperation, her leg throbbing painfully as she considered her limited options. Finally, unable to ignore her overwhelming pain and fear any longer, she reluctantly provided her address, uncertain exactly what to expect from this mysterious stranger's unexpected concern. Sebastian wasted no time, immediately arranging for his personal physician to meet him at Natalie's address, along with a small security detail. Uncertain exactly what dangerous situation awaited him, but determined nonetheless to help the frightened stranger whose desperate message had unexpectedly reached him. Within minutes, Sebastian arrived personally at Natalie's modest apartment, his expression calm yet clearly concerned as he knocked gently on her door. Natalie, startled by the surprisingly quick response, cautiously opened the door, wincing sharply from the pain in her leg as she studied the unfamiliar, composed man standing before her. "Are you Natalie?" Sebastian asked gently, genuine concern evident clearly in his tone. Natalie nodded cautiously, uncertainty and pain evident clearly in her expression. "Yes," she replied hesitantly. "I don't understand why you've come. This is all such a strange mistake," Sebastian studied her carefully, noticing immediately the visible pain and distress evident in her posture. "Mistake or not," he said firmly, though his tone remained gentle and reassuring, "you're clearly injured and in need of immediate medical attention. Please allow me to help you." Natalie hesitated briefly, overwhelmed by the surreal nature of the situation, yet increasingly aware of her own dire need for medical assistance. Finally, exhaustion and pain overriding her lingering uncertainty, she nodded slowly, allowing Sebastian and his physician entry into her apartment. As Sebastian's physician began carefully examining her injured leg, Natalie found herself studying the mysterious stranger who had so unexpectedly appeared at her door, genuine curiosity and gratitude mixing uncertainly within her. She had no way of knowing yet just how significantly this simple, accidental text message would soon transform her entire life, drawing her unexpectedly into a world far more complicated and dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Sebastian's personal physician, Dr. Harmon, carefully examined Natalie's injured leg, his expression thoughtful and focused as he assessed the severity of the injury. "It appears to be a serious fracture," he explained gently. "She'll need proper imaging and treatment at a hospital immediately." Natalie, exhausted and overwhelmed, glanced anxiously towards Sebastian. "I don't have insurance that covers emergency care easily," she admitted quietly, embarrassment evident clearly in her tired voice. "I'm not sure how I'll manage the hospital bills." Sebastian studied her closely, gentle reassurance evident clearly in his expression. "Don't worry about the cost," he said firmly. "I'll ensure you receive proper care immediately." "That's not something you need to worry about tonight." Natalie hesitated, clearly uncomfortable accepting such generous assistance from a complete stranger. "I can't ask you to do that," she said honestly. "You don't even know me." Sebastian offered a small, reassuring smile. "You're in pain and need help," he said simply. "That's reason enough for me. We can sort out the details later, once you're properly cared for." Reluctantly, Natalie agreed, allowing Sebastian's team to arrange immediate transport to a private, discreet medical facility where she received prompt, thorough treatment for her fractured leg. Sebastian remained close throughout the process, quietly ensuring she received the best possible care, despite the late hour and unusual circumstances surrounding their unexpected encounter. Once Natalie's leg had been properly set and stabilized, Sebastian visited her quietly in her hospital room, genuine concern still evident in his expression. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently, taking a seat nearby. "Better, thank you," Natalie replied, exhaustion evident clearly in her voice, though clear gratitude was also present. "I still can't quite believe you've done all this for a complete stranger." Sebastian studied her carefully, curiosity and concern evident clearly in his gaze. "I'd like to understand what happened to you tonight," he said gently. "Your message mentioned someone hurting you deliberately. Can you tell me more about that?" Natalie hesitated, clearly uncomfortable discussing the frightening details of her ordeal, though exhaustion and vulnerability gradually softened her initial resistance. "I borrowed money from a lender to help cover my mother's medical bills," she admitted quietly. "Things got complicated quickly, and tonight one of his men came to collect payment I didn't have. He got violent when I couldn't pay immediately." Sebastian's expression darkened instantly, controlled anger evident clearly beneath his composed exterior. "Do you know the name of this lender?" he asked carefully, his tone measured despite his obvious concern. Natalie nodded hesitantly. "Gordon Blackwell," she replied quietly. "I didn't realize how dangerous he truly was until it was already too late." Sebastian considered this information carefully, understanding immediately the seriousness of the situation. He was familiar with predatory lenders like Blackwell, understanding clearly the danger and exploitation they inflicted upon vulnerable, desperate individuals seeking financial help during difficult times. "You shouldn't have to face this kind of danger alone," Sebastian said firmly, sincerity evident clearly in his tone. "I intend to look further into this situation, ensuring you're properly protected moving forward." Natalie studied him closely, surprised yet genuinely grateful for his unexpected concern and protection. "Why are you doing this?" she asked honestly. "You don't owe me anything. I sent that message to you by mistake." Sebastian considered her question thoughtfully before responding sincerely. "Perhaps it wasn't entirely a mistake," he said softly. "Sometimes circumstances place us exactly where we're meant to be, even unexpectedly. I couldn't simply ignore someone in genuine distress, especially once I understood the seriousness of your situation." Natalie felt herself moved deeply by his genuine sincerity, gratitude and curiosity mingling within her. "Thank you," she said softly, emotion evident clearly in her voice. "I don't know how I'll ever properly repay your kindness." Natalie felt herself moved deeply by his genuine sincerity, gratitude and curiosity mingling within her. "Thank you," she said softly, emotion evident clearly in her voice. "I don't know how I'll ever properly repay your kindness." Sebastian offered a warm, genuine smile. "Simply allow me to ensure your continued safety," he said gently. "That's more than enough." As their conversation deepened further that evening, Natalie found herself increasingly grateful and intrigued by Sebastian's genuine concern and protective nature, despite the unusual and unexpected circumstances that had brought them together. Neither of them yet realized clearly, however, just how deeply entangled their lives would soon become. As Sebastian's growing involvement in addressing Gordon Blackwell's dangerous, predatory lending operation began setting the stage for challenges neither had anticipated facing together. 6 months earlier, Natalie's life had taken a difficult turn when her mother, Diane, had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition requiring immediate, extensive medical treatment. The diagnosis had come as a devastating shock, throwing Natalie's carefully managed, modest finances into complete disarray as she scrambled desperately to cover the mounting medical expenses. Natalie worked as a graphic designer, earning a steady but modest income that had always been sufficient for her simple, careful lifestyle. However, faced suddenly with overwhelming medical bills that quickly exceeded her insurance coverage, she found herself desperately searching for any possible solution to ensure her mother received the critical care she urgently needed. With traditional loans and credit options quickly exhausted, Natalie had reluctantly turned toward alternative lending options, eventually finding herself connected with Gordon Blackwell, a lender known within certain circles for providing quick, easy loans without the lengthy approval processes typical of traditional banks. Desperate and increasingly anxious about her mother's declining health, Natalie hadn't fully considered the potential dangers or predatory nature of such informal lending arrangements. Blackwell had approved her loan quickly, offering seemingly reasonable terms initially, though hidden fees and rapidly escalating interest rates had gradually transformed her manageable debt into an overwhelming, crushing burden. Natalie had worked tirelessly, taking on additional freelance projects and cutting every possible expense, desperately trying to keep pace with the rapidly growing debt, yet finding herself falling further behind with each passing month. As her mother's health slowly stabilized under proper medical care, Natalie's financial situation continued deteriorating steadily, the predatory terms of her loan proving increasingly impossible to manage. Blackwell's representatives had grown increasingly aggressive in their collection attempts, their tone shifting gradually from polite reminders toward thinly veiled threats regarding the serious consequences of continued non-payment. Natalie had confided her growing fears to her best friend Rachel, though she had carefully avoided burdening her ailing mother with the full extent of her financial struggles. Determined to protect Diane from additional stress during her ongoing recovery, she had hoped desperately that she could somehow manage the situation quietly, without her mother ever discovering the true severity of the danger surrounding her daughter's financial decisions. That fateful evening, when Blackwell's associate had arrived unexpectedly at her apartment, demanding immediate payment, Natalie's carefully managed secret had finally exploded into violent, frightening reality, culminating in the injury that had ultimately, unexpectedly, connected her with Sebastian Cole. Now, recovering quietly within the private medical facility Sebastian had arranged, Natalie found herself reflecting deeply on the difficult, exhausting months since her mother's diagnosis, grateful yet overwhelmed by the unexpected turn her life had taken. One quiet afternoon, as Sebastian visited again during her recovery, Natalie finally shared more openly about the full extent of her difficult circumstances. "I never wanted anyone to know how bad things had become," she admitted honestly, vulnerability evident clearly in her voice. "I just wanted to protect my mother, to ensure she received proper care without additional worry." Sebastian listened intently, genuine empathy and admiration evident clearly in his expression. "You've shown remarkable strength and selflessness," he said sincerely, "facing such an overwhelming situation alone, all to protect your mother's health and peace of mind." Natalie smiled softly, appreciation evident clearly in her tired yet grateful expression. "Thank you for understanding," she said quietly. "It's been an incredibly difficult few months, but my mother's health has always been worth every sacrifice." Sebastian studied her closely, warmth and genuine respect evident clearly in his gaze. "I intend to ensure Blackwell faces serious consequences for his predatory practices," he said firmly. "No one else should have to endure the kind of danger and fear you've experienced because of his reckless greed." Natalie nodded, gratitude evident clearly in her expression. "Thank you, Sebastian," she said sincerely. "I still can't quite believe how much you've already done to help me." A complete stranger. As their conversation deepened further, Natalie found herself genuinely moved by Sebastian's compassionate understanding and determined protectiveness. Neither of them yet realized clearly, however, that Gordon Blackwell, upon discovering Sebastian's unexpected involvement in Natalie's situation, had already begun considering desperate, dangerous measures to protect his own illegal operation from the serious threat Sebastian's growing influence now represented. Following Natalie's discharge from the medical facility, Sebastian arranged for her to recover comfortably within his own estate, insisting she required proper rest and monitoring given the seriousness of her injury. Natalie, though initially hesitant to accept such generous hospitality, found herself gradually more comfortable within his quiet, well-managed household. Sebastian, meanwhile, directed his associate Reyes to conduct a thorough investigation into Gordon Blackwell's lending operation, wanting to understand the full scope of his predatory practices before deciding how best to proceed. "Blackwell's been operating for years," Reyes reported after several days of careful investigation. "He targets vulnerable people facing medical emergencies or financial crises, offering seemingly reasonable loans that quickly spiral into impossible debt through hidden fees and predatory interest rates." Sebastian's expression hardened with controlled anger as he listened. "How many people has he victimized this way?" he asked firmly. "Dozens at minimum," Reyes confirmed grimly. "Most too frightened or ashamed to report his violent collection tactics to authorities." Sebastian considered this information seriously, determination hardening steadily within him. "Gather concrete evidence of his practices," he instructed firmly. "I want enough to shut down his entire operation permanently, ensuring he can never prey on vulnerable people again." As the investigation into Blackwell continued, Sebastian found himself spending increasing time with Natalie during her recovery, their conversations deepening naturally as she regained her strength within his estate. He found himself genuinely drawn toward her resilience, warmth, and quiet determination, qualities that had first captured his attention through her desperate, honest text message. "I still don't understand why you've done all this," Natalie admitted one afternoon, as they sat together in the estate's peaceful garden. Most people would have simply ignored a wrong number text and moved on with their evening. Sebastian considered her question thoughtfully before responding honestly. "Perhaps I've grown tired of the calculated, often insincere relationships common within my world," he admitted candidly. Your message was raw and genuine, completely unguarded. Something about that honesty resonated with me deeply. Natalie studied him closely, curiosity and warmth evident clearly in her expression. "That's a surprisingly thoughtful answer," she said softly. "I'll admit, you're not at all what I expected, given everything I've since learned about your world." Sebastian allowed a small, genuine smile to form. "I could say the same about you," he replied warmly. "Your strength and selflessness throughout this entire ordeal have been remarkable." Their conversations continued, deepening steadily over the following days. Sebastian finding himself increasingly captivated by Natalie's genuine warmth, intelligence, and quiet resilience. Despite the complicated circumstances surrounding their unusual connection, he found himself unable to deny the genuine affection steadily developing within him. One evening, as Natalie continued her recovery, sitting comfortably in the estate's cozy library, Sebastian joined her, his expression thoughtful. "Natalie," he began carefully, "I want to be honest about something." Natalie looked up, curiosity evident clearly in her gaze. "What is it?" she asked gently. Sebastian considered his words carefully before continuing sincerely. "I've found myself increasingly drawn toward you these past few days," he admitted honestly. "Beyond simply wanting to help you recover safely, I've genuinely enjoyed getting to know you." Natalie felt her heart flutter slightly at his sincere admission, though she remained thoughtful, processing the unexpected complexity of their unusual situation. "I've enjoyed our conversations as well," she admitted honestly. "Though I'll admit this entire situation still feels somewhat surreal to me." Sebastian nodded understandingly, respecting her cautious honesty. "I understand completely," he said gently. "I don't wish to rush anything between us, especially given everything you're still processing regarding Blackwell's threat." Natalie studied him closely, warmth and genuine appreciation evident clearly in her own expression. "Thank you for your patience and understanding," she said softly. "I think, once this danger is fully resolved, I'd like the chance to properly explore what's developing between us." Sebastian smiled warmly, genuine happiness evident clearly in his expression. "I'd like that very much," he said sincerely, as their conversation concluded that evening. Both Sebastian and Natalie understood clearly that their growing connection would need to navigate the serious danger still surrounding Blackwell's predatory operation, setting the stage for a confrontation that would soon test both. Sebastian's resolve and the genuine bond steadily developing between them as Sebastian's investigation into Gordon Blackwell's operation gathered increasingly damning evidence. Word eventually reached Blackwell himself that a powerful figure had taken personal interest in dismantling his predatory lending business. Realizing quickly that Natalie's connection to Sebastian posed a serious threat to his entire operation, Blackwell grew increasingly desperate, determined to eliminate the danger she now represented before Sebastian's investigation could be completed. "She's become a serious liability," Blackwell said coldly during a private meeting with his most trusted associates. "If Cole gathers enough evidence linking her injury directly to my operation, it could destroy everything I've built." His men exchanged uneasy glances, aware clearly of the seriousness behind Blackwell's cold determination. "How do you want to proceed?" one asked cautiously. "We need her silenced permanently," Blackwell replied firmly. "Quietly, before Cole's investigation gathers any further momentum." Meanwhile, unaware of the immediate danger closing in, Natalie continued her recovery within Sebastian's estate, gradually regaining her strength and mobility. Sebastian, sensing increasing tension surrounding the ongoing investigation, had already arranged enhanced security around the estate, careful never to alarm Natalie unnecessarily. One evening, as Natalie prepared for bed within the estate's guest quarters, she noticed movement outside her window, an unfamiliar figure lingering suspiciously near the estate's perimeter. Alarmed, she quickly alerted estate security, who responded immediately, though the intruder managed to escape before being properly identified. Sebastian informed urgently of the incident, felt fury and concern ignite instantly within him. "Increase security immediately," he ordered firmly, addressing Reyes directly. Blackwell's clearly grown desperate enough to attempt something reckless. Reyes nodded seriously, quickly implementing additional security measures throughout the estate. Despite these precautions, however, Blackwell's men proved patient, carefully waiting for another opportunity to strike. That opportunity arose 2 nights later, when a small maintenance crew, unknowingly infiltrated by one of Blackwell's associates posing as a technician, gained brief access to a section of the estate during a scheduled security system inspection. Exploiting this narrow window, the associate quickly located Natalie's room, intending to eliminate the threat she represented before Sebastian's men could properly respond. Natalie, sensing something wrong as an unfamiliar figure entered her room unexpectedly, screamed loudly, alerting nearby security immediately. Sebastian, working late in his nearby office, rushed instantly toward the sound of her distress, adrenaline and fury propelling him forward. He arrived just as security intercepted the intruder, quickly subduing him before any harm could come to Natalie. "Are you all right?" Sebastian asked urgently, rushing to her side, relief flooding through him upon confirming she remained unharmed. Natalie nodded, though clearly shaken by the frightening encounter. "I'm okay," she said shakily. "He didn't get the chance to hurt me." Sebastian studied the captured intruder coldly, anger evident clearly beneath his controlled exterior. "This is clearly Blackwell's doing," he said firmly. "He's grown desperate enough to attempt eliminating you directly, with clear evidence of Blackwell's attempted attack now firmly in hand." Sebastian moved swiftly and decisively, combining this evidence with the extensive investigation already gathered against Blackwell's predatory lending operation. Within hours, he ensured this comprehensive evidence reached local authorities and key figures within the criminal underworld, effectively exposing and dismantling Blackwell's entire operation, facing imminent arrest and complete collapse of his criminal enterprise. Blackwell attempted a desperate final escape, only to be swiftly apprehended by authorities. His dangerous scheme against Natalie and Sebastian's organization finally coming to its complete and decisive end. Breathing heavily, adrenaline slowly fading, Natalie turned toward Sebastian, gratitude and relief evident clearly in her tearful expression. "Thank you," she whispered softly, "for protecting me, for ensuring this nightmare is finally over." Sebastian held her closely, warmth and relief evident clearly in his own expression. "I'll always protect you, Natalie," he said softly, "no matter what danger arises." As the immediate threat fully subsided, both Sebastian and Natalie understood clearly that their bond had grown even stronger through this dangerous ordeal, setting the stage for an important, life-changing acknowledgement of the genuine love that had unexpectedly blossomed from a single, desperate wrong-number text. In the days following Blackwell's arrest and the complete collapse of his predatory lending operation, Natalie's life gradually began settling into a peaceful, hopeful new rhythm. Her leg continued healing steadily, and with the constant fear and danger finally behind her, she found herself able to focus fully on her recovery, both physically and emotionally. For the first time in many months, her mother Diane, once informed of the frightening ordeal Natalie had endured, expressed both deep gratitude toward Sebastian and gentle concern regarding her daughter's safety. Sebastian, understanding clearly the importance of family, personally visited Diane, reassuring her warmly of his genuine commitment to Natalie's continued safety and happiness. "Thank you for protecting my daughter," Diane said sincerely during their meeting. Warmth and gratitude evident clearly in her tired yet genuine expression. "I don't know how we'll ever properly repay your kindness." Sebastian smiled gently, sincerity evident clearly in his own expression. "Natalie's safety and happiness are more than enough repayment," he said honestly. "She's shown remarkable strength and resilience throughout this entire ordeal, qualities I deeply admire." Diane studied him closely, genuine approval evident clearly in her expression. "I can see clearly how much you care for her," she said warmly. "That means everything to a mother." With Diane's blessing and gratitude clearly evident, Sebastian felt genuine relief and happiness, understanding clearly the importance of Natalie's family in fully embracing the future he hoped to build alongside her. Later that evening, sitting together quietly in the estate's peaceful garden, Sebastian took Natalie's hand gently, sincerity clear in his expression. "Natalie," he began softly, "these past few weeks have shown me clearly how much you've come to mean to me. What started as an unexpected accidental text message has become something genuinely meaningful and real." Natalie smiled warmly, genuine happiness evident clearly in her own expression. "I feel the same way," she admitted softly. "I never imagined finding such genuine safety, kindness, and love through such an unusual, unexpected circumstance." Sebastian took a deep breath, sincerity and hope clear in his gaze. "I'd like the opportunity to build a genuine future with you, Natalie," he said honestly. "Free from danger, built instead on trust, respect, and the remarkable connection we've discovered together." Natalie felt tears of happiness forming gently in her eyes. "I'd like that very much, Sebastian," she said softly. Genuine warmth evident clearly in her own tone. In the months that followed, Sebastian and Natalie's relationship blossomed into something genuinely meaningful, grounded firmly in mutual respect, gratitude, and shared experiences. Natalie gradually resumed her work as a graphic designer. Her financial worries finally resolved completely. While also becoming increasingly involved in charitable initiatives, Sebastian began funding, specifically aimed at protecting vulnerable individuals from predatory lending practices similar to what she herself had experienced. Diane's health continued improving steadily under proper medical care, finally free from the financial stress that had once threatened to overwhelm both mother and daughter completely. Reflecting quietly one peaceful evening, watching the sunset together from the estate's balcony, Natalie considered deeply the remarkable, unexpected journey that had transformed her life so completely since that single, desperate mistake of a wrongly sent text message. What had begun as a moment of genuine panic and fear had transformed completely into something Natalie had never imagined possible. Genuine safety, love, and a meaningful future built through mutual respect, courage, and the unexpected kindness of a stranger whose quiet strength and compassion had ultimately turned devastating fear into lasting hope and happiness.